And we are here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I, of course, am your host, Tyler Lopes. If you have not subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Also, hit that bell icon so you never miss any one of my videos. Also, please do like and share this video so we can help the podcast grow. And please follow me on Facebook and on Twitter. Twitter at Lopes Goes Last and Facebook at Lopes Goes Last podcast. Links for those will be down in the description below. Man, what a episode. I just got done recording this episode with Andy Riley and Ryan Bruce. No, you are not trapped in a time machine or in some kind of time loop. We did do this again, and it was so much fun. It was as fun, if not more fun, this time than it was last time. I mean, I just always love getting these guys together and talking baseball, talking football, and just talking life. They're two of my best friends in the whole world, and gosh, I just cannot understate how amazing these guys are and how important they are to me as a person and obviously to this podcast and its success. They're so awesome, and the fact that they were willing to do this again just shows you how great of guys they are. So I hope you guys enjoy this new conversation with Andy Riley and Ryan Bruce, and I will take you there right now. All right, so we are here with the second interview with obviously Andy Riley and Coach Ryan Bruce, both of Johnson University. Gentlemen, thank you again so much for doing this. We talked about doing it again right when the season started. I'm so glad we were able to make it happen. First of all, obviously, how are you guys doing? Andy, I'll start with you. How are you doing, sir?
We are doing fantastic. The Braves are 500, which I will happily take. So, I can't really complain.
Fair enough. Bruce, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's always good to watch Braves legend Matt Olson succeed so early on in his Braves career.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. And first of all, I will say it looks like you've got better internet this time. So hopefully we won't have as many cutouts as we had before. And it's
Andy.
funny. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I blame Andy.
Okay, fair enough. And it's funny that you mentioned Matt Olson because I actually wanted to open this thing up with talking about Matt Olson. So, I mean, I don't really have a question for it. I just know that you guys are very excited to talk about Matt Olson and what he has been doing. So, Brucey, I will start with you. Talk about Matt Olson and what he has been able to do since he's gone to the Braves. Talk about the impact that he's made.
Well, first off, it's a very small sample size of what he's done so far. But for a guy to come in and replace a player like Freddie Freeman, it's never easy, and for him to do it so quickly and look so comfortable out there just shows you how good of a ball player and professional Matt Olson is. So I'm so pumped to have him in Atlanta holding down first base for the next 8 years.
Absolutely. Andy?
Yep, I'd absolutely echo what he said. I mean, you can't really replace Freddie Freeman based off everything that he's done, but you can't ask him to be doing much more than he's doing right now. Like, the man's hitting, he's fielding. His swing and miss is a lot less than I expected 4 games in. I've got 0 complaints.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
He is not Braves legend Matt Olson yet, and I always get agitated whenever Brucey brings it up. But he's well on his way. He is well on his way.
It is Braves legend Matt Olson.
Oh,
Gotcha.
no.
Yeah, and I was reading stuff about Matt Olson and his career because obviously we're all on the East Coast. It's not a secret. Right now South Carolina, but usually Florida. Brucey, you typically reside in Georgia. Andy obviously also typically resides in Georgia. Now, obviously with college, you're in Tennessee, but always on the East Coast. So watching Oakland games, it's just not a priority. Yeah, it doesn't happen. I'm not staying up till 10 o'clock to watch, slightly above average baseball. Like, it's nice every once in a while if they're playing an afternoon game or something, but I don't really get to catch a lot of A's games. So I don't really get to watch a lot of Matt Olson. But obviously Oakland's ballpark is not the most conducive to big home run hitters. There have been guys that have obviously been very successful hitting home runs in Oakland. Not saying that that's not happened before. Of course it has. In Cespedes, Josh Donaldson, Matt Olson, guys like that. Obviously, plenty more than that. But just looking at kind of Matt Olson's swing and his projected fly ball chart and everything like that, it seems like he's legitimately capable of putting up a 40 home run season in Atlanta, considering the much smaller dimensions in Atlanta and his obviously pull happy swing that he has. And if he can cut that whiff percentage down, like you were mentioning earlier, Andy, I think he could really be successful. And transitioning onto, you mentioned Freddie Freeman. Obviously, it's no secret in the world that Matt Olson's replacing Freddie Freeman, right? We all know that. That's a given. But something happened a few days ago that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I'm very, very interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I know I have my opinions on it, but I want to hear from Atlanta fans. Obviously, you guys are very close to it. Ronald Acuna went on some kind of stream or podcast, something like that, a few days ago. What?
Instagram Live,
right. And he basically, just really said some harsh things about Freddie Freeman, about his character, about his personality. I don't want to, completely give everything that he said away. But basically, to summarize, he said that he would not miss Freddie Freeman. There's nothing about him that he would miss. Him and Freddie were not friends. They never were friends. He was one of those guys that had a certain way of playing the game and didn't agree with the way Ronald Acuna played. He never stuck up for him whenever they would get into fights or something like that. Like when Ronald Acuna would get hit with pitches and, you have your whole team brawls, Freddie would never stand up for him. He never really talked to him, gave him advice, nothing. And basically that kind of summarizes it. So my question to you guys is, first of all, just what are your general thoughts about what he said? And second of all, does what he said change your opinion of either Freddie Freeman or of Ronald Acuna?
Well,
I'm going to start it off, Andy, because I know what you're going to say. So
that's my fault. I usually delegate which one should start.
And I also
that's
know
my
what
fault.
Bruce is going to say, and I disagree with him. So
I think you're going to be a little surprised, because people think that I hate Freddie, and I don't hate Freddie. But first off, I think none of that should ever happen. All right, Ronald should have just kept his mouth shut. All right, he's not an 18-year-old, 19-year-old anymore. Should never said it. But if you have been following the Braves like me and Andy have been following them for the last however many years, it's no secret that stuff that Ronald did say did happen. Okay. Freddie was tough on Ronald Acuna, hence when he hit the ball off the wall and was standing on first, which he should be. Did we know about the other little things that Acuna said? No, but does it surprise me? It also doesn't surprise me. No. So I don't think Ronald should have said it, but it doesn't. At the same time, it doesn't surprise me that those things did happen.
Gotcha.
I'm not surprised by it, but I feel like Freddie's role has always been kind of the mentor, the old veteran that, guides the kiddos to, learn how to survive in the major leagues. And if we've all seen Ronald play, he is very much a very flashy, show-offy player. And, that works to his advantage sometimes, but every now and then he'll do something like, Bruce said in that division series game when he bat flips a ball off the wall and he's standing on first base. You can't have that. Whose role is it on the team? Who on the Braves would be the most likely to, get through to Ronnie on that? That'd be Freddie Freeman. And I have a suspicion that Freddie had to do that constantly. And I don't really consider Ronald Acuna to be the kind of player that would, like hearing that over and over again. So I understand why they disagreed with each other, but I definitely don't think Freddie was in the wrong. I think Ronald definitely just maybe doesn't take the criticism that Freddie was giving super well, because they're two different types of players. And it does change the way I look at Acuna a little bit. I still love him, but now he gives off, I don't want to say entitled. Entitled's a big word, But I definitely think he still has some maturing to do that I definitely was, wishing that he had kind of grown out of by now, given that this is going to be his what, fourth year in the bigs. Like if he was a rookie, I would be like, yeah, I can understand it. But he's 4 years in now. He's a veteran leader, and he's going to need to continue being that veteran leader. Therefore, he needs to be able to do what Freddie's been doing. Or else it's going to be pure anarchy, and the Braves are going to be the villains of literally the entire MLB, and we don't really need that.
Gotcha. So again, the follow-up to that question, Andy, you did answer it a little bit. Does this kind of make you think differently about Freddie Freeman than you did before? Or Ronald Acuna than you did before?
Freddie, it does not. Acuna, it does a little bit.
For me, neither of them. No.
Gotcha.
No.
Gotcha. So for me, obviously not a Braves fan. I mean, I like them. I enjoy watching them play. I obviously live very close to Atlanta. I'm looking forward to going to some Braves games this year, hopefully with you gentlemen as well. But for me, as somebody who doesn't watch every Braves game and doesn't follow everything, it was a bit of a surprise to me to hear. I think that maybe you just kind of take things for granted like that when you're not really paying attention to it every day. Did it surprise me that Freddie and Ronald didn't have the greatest relationship in the world? No. But what surprised me was how far Ronald Acuna took what he said, not necessarily in like, wow, I can't believe he said all those things, but more of like, wow, I can't believe that somebody thinks all of those things about Freddie Freeman. Like it just I wouldn't have thought that Freddie Freeman would be that much of a stickler about everything and always be on your case. Like Freddie Freeman doesn't strike me as that guy that like always is going to police everybody to play the game exactly like the old school way. Like he didn't strike me as that guy, but obviously again, I'm not watching every day,
And
so go ahead.
I will point out, me and Bruce talked about this a little bit when it first came out. Like I sent the text in like that little group chat and we were talking about it the day of practice. Mm-hmm. If you go back and watch the videos of, when the Marlins hit Acuna a million times and the bench is clear, basically every year at this point, it's something we can look forward to. I can't wait for I can't wait for the 2022 edition, but it's going to happen. And, but if you look at the videos, bench is empty all the time, Snickers out there yelling. If you look, Freddie is noticeably absent in all those things. And those are a situation where it's very blatantly black and white, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And, me as a teammate, like regardless of who got hit, unless, it was, well, say maybe unless it was Travis running his mouth, but I would be out there like, you're not going to go out there and you're not going to, throw at my boy like that, I'm going to, stand out there. I'll be one of the first people out the dugout, And it was really noticeable given like, the leadership Freddie had that he wasn't out there, which almost makes me understand where Ronald's coming from. But at the same time, like, it's not like he was defenseless out there. There were like Snicker was out there ready to murder a man. But and then Bruce pointed out, and he'll back this up, when ACL got torn last year in the outfield, like, obviously the Braves, empty dugout, go to the right field, Warren track in Miami, comforting him because, he's in trauma. Again, Freddie seemed very, almost emotionless through the whole thing. And it's not something I would have noticed prior to these comments being made. And I'm not trying to defend what Acuna said, because as Bruce said, Acuna was 100% in the wrong for spewing all these things out. But it's still something that you got to acknowledge.
Bruce, you got anything?
He answered it pretty well right there. So
gotcha. Yeah, and again, for me, I think obviously, again, I'm not close to the situation, but for me, it's more of an argument of what is the right way to play the game nowadays, and I think that that's a much more introspective and big argument that would take up way too much time for this podcast because I have obviously have other things that I want to get into. But for me, yeah, maybe Acuna should have like maybe put this in a book. You know, like put it like way down the road when your career's over. Surprise some people like, wow, him and Freddie had beef. I would have never even known. Like, you know, I think saying it now is a bit immature, like you guys were saying, but also at the same time, Ronald Acuna is a part of a new breed of baseball player that the game desperately needs. I think we all know and are all willing to admit, hopefully, that MLB is horrendous at marketing its players. Absolutely horrendous. Like they are so bad at it that if you were walking on the street in China and you walked up to somebody and went, Michael Jordan, they'd go, oh, Michael Jordan, or LeBron James, oh, LeBron James, Tom Brady, oh, Tom Brady, Mike Trout, huh?
Yeah.
Like no one outside of hardcore or maybe casual baseball fans will say, oh, Mike Trout is one of the best athletes in the world, or Shohei Ohtani is one of the best athletes in the world. Obviously, you would know him if you lived in Japan, but other than that, nothing. Because baseball's so bad at marketing players because players are not allowed to stand out. Players are not allowed to be themselves. And that's that old school mentality of if you showboat at all, if you do anything at all, it's disrespecting the game and you deserve to be hit with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball right in the elbow on the first pitch of the game because you hit home runs off me and I don't like it. Like that is also something that drives me nuts about the game today. Now, I'm not saying that Freddie Freeman is wrong for telling Ronald Acuna to hustle his butt off when he hits a ball to a wall and he's standing on first base. That's a whole nother issue. Like that's a hustle issue. That shouldn't happen. But when a guy gets hit because he's hitting home runs and you're not standing up for your teammate because you don't like the way he plays the game, there's something wrong with that in my mind.
Yeah.
There really is something wrong with that. Like you were talking about, I don't care if you are completely in the wrong. I don't care if you walked up to my catcher or if you walked up to a catcher and spit in his face and the catcher punched you in the face. I'm going to be the first person out of the dugout pulling that guy off of you because you're my teammate. And then after the game's over, I'm going to walk up to you and be like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that? Are you an idiot or something? Like, I'm still going to stand up for you because you play for my team and I need you to help us win. And I just think that both guys are wrong in this instance where Freddie took it too far. He should have stuck up for his teammate more. He should have been there for Ronald Acuna more, at the very least, just because they played on the same team and they were both very good. They needed each other. And Ronald was wrong. He shouldn't have said what he said when he said it. So that's my take on it. You guys have anything else to add before we move on?
Yeah, I would. I just want to let Andy know that Matt Olson has gotten on base again. So, and speaking of Matt Olson, my bad, Braves legend Matt Olson. Me and Andy have made a little friendly bet.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Not even a bet. It affects me in no way, but it does affect him. If Matt Olson breaks Ted Williams' record of for batting average, which is probably impossible, but it's still, who knows? Baseball's a funny game, right? Andy has to get Matt Olson's number tattooed on him somewhere.
Okay.
So,
Absolutely.
like
and, you know, if he breaks Ted Williams' record, I will do that happily.
and we never made a deal on like, so Matt Olson could get hurt right now. I hope it don't happen, knock on wood, and be out for the rest of the year. I win.
Oh, if he pulls
Because
a hamstring
over
right now,
400.
I'm cry.
So I would cry too. It would be terrible, but I will pay for it too. So there you go.
I mean, by that logic, that it's already been broken then, because there's people that have played the game for like 2 games and then blown out their knee and batted 800 and then never played again.
Well, Andy never specified, so
I the
He
deal
just
is Matt
he just
Olson.
agreed to it.
It's Matt
So
Olson. As
I've
long as he doesn't
outsmarted
get
Mr.
hurt.
Andy once again.
No.
Andy, I tried, buddy. I'm sorry.
If he
No.
ends the year with a batting average over Ted Williams, is happily.
There we go.
Okay. I'm
And
glad we said that because
I'll pay for it. I'll design it, everything. Okay.
All right, I will virtual Zoom handshake you. I agree.
I'm glad we're settling this because this is going on the internet. I just want you are aware of that.
Yeah.
This is out there forever.
I mean, we already made the deal, but we're like, if we talk about it on the podcast, it's in stone forever and ever and ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So
perfect. All right. Well, moving on to our next kind of topic here, kind of similar to what we've been talking about. A nice, easy question for you guys. What do you guys think of the final product of the Braves team going into this season? Is it what you wanted, what you expected? Is there things that you guys wish they would have done that they didn't, or things that they did do that you wish they didn't? Like, where do you guys stand on that? Brucey, I'll start with you. You seem to be making that
Yeah.
I don't like something.
I'm ready to rock and roll. I like the finished product, but it's not finished. Once we get Acuna back, I'll really, really like it. I wish we would have gotten another big left-handed bat, at least for like the help platoon at the DH spot, or play the outfield so Marcell Ozuna doesn't have to play the outfield, because that is just awful to watch. It's so frustrating. I would have liked a veteran starting pitcher to go along with Charlie Morton. I would have really liked that. I mean, I think our bullpen is one of the best in the game, if not the best. But other than like another left-handed bat and another starting pitcher, like I would have loved to sign Johnny Cueto. I would have loved it. I think he would have been perfect part of that rotation. Throw him in the 4 or 5 spot in the rotation. He'd been great. I wish we would have re-signed my boy Jock Peterson, but I think we're gonna be all right. Once we get Acuna back, I think we're gonna be all right. But I still think that the Braves, if the opportunity presents itself, the trade deadline will go get a left-handed bat.
Gotcha, Andy.
yeah, I'll echo that. I'm really happy with the product that we have now. Mainly in the fact that we took arguably one of the best bullpens in all of baseball and somehow made it better. I mean, we had, the trio of, Jackson, Matzik, and Smith. Unfortunately, Jackson's gone, but we replaced him with Kenley, who I'm under the impression will be better than his first outing was, which did give me a very, very big heart attack. He took a 4-run lead that he, should have,
You didn't even watch it.
I did watch that one. But stressed me out. Will Smith, I like as a 7th, 8th inning guy. Don't like him as a closer. Never have. I mean, me and Brucey shared a moment in the division series game that we were both at. We didn't go together, but we were like, we were in a similar section of the stadium, and it was,
see each other.
Yeah, we could see each other. And as soon as Will Smith trotted out of the bullpen, me and him looked at each other in just sheer fear, knowing what was about to happen. But he's genuinely a good 7th, 8th inning guy. So I can live with that. I mean, I think Spencer Strider in the late innings will be good until he inevitably gets moved into the rotation. I think come the summer, I think we can stretch him out.
They stretched him out a little bit tonight. He threw about. He's still throwing right now. He came in the 4th, and he's already thrown 3 innings. So
yep, exactly, he's on pace to
Gosh, Marcell.
So yeah, I'm very happy with the finished product.
Gotcha. Awesome. So I believe I told you guys that I was going to ask you this question. I want to hear 3 breakout players for you guys this year. And hopefully you guys do have 3. If not, 1 will suffice. It's totally fine. But I'm under the impression that you guys have your 3. And Andy, I will start with you this time. 3 guys across Major League Baseball that you think are going to have breakout years this year.
All right. Well, the first one, I already talked about briefly. Spencer Strider. The man is filthy. One of my good friends at Columbia Sportswear, actually, that I work with, played high school ball in like the same region as him. He has been the absolute man at every single level of baseball that man has ever played in his life. I don't know how he was relatively unheard of until he started making noise in Double-A last year. And every time he throws, it is just must-watch television. I think he should right now be already near the back end of a bullpen that includes Tyler Masick, Will Smith, and Kenley Jansen, 3 elite back end bullpen arms. And I think Strider's right up there with them right now. I think a little bit of that right now is the factor that just people don't really know who he is yet. But what little we've seen out of him is elite. Let's see. The second name that I thought of, I'm a big college baseball fan too. And I think Andrew Vaughn is somebody, the White Sox, I think he plays third or second base for them. I don't know exactly where.
He's an outfielder.
Outfielder. Perfect. But let me tell you, I saw that man hitting his golden spike season. That man can swing the bat, and he's fixing to break out in a big way. And the more games that the White Sox, and the more games the White Sox win, because I think they definitely should be the favorites to win the Central again. The more exposure he gets, if they win a playoff series or two, people are going to know who Andrew Vaughn is. And I am really, really excited about that. And the third name I came up with, I can't really call him a breakout guy per se, because he's already proven that he's good. I'm just thinking that if he does it again, more people will know who he is. And that's Brian Reynolds of the Pirates. That man has been sneaky, sneaky good, and he is not going to fall off. So what's either going to happen is he's going to have another 2022 like he did 2021, and they're going to say, hey, that wasn't a fluke. Or the Pirates are going to end up having to trade him at the deadline to a competitor, and he's going to go to some bigger market team that's in a playoff race, and he'll essentially take over because he is legitimately one of the most talented outfielders in baseball, and nobody knows about him because he's a Pittsburgh Pirate. So I don't know if I can call him a breakout player in the sense that his numbers will drastically improve, but I think more people will know about him. So those were the 3 names I came up with for my 3 breakout players for 2022.
Gotcha. Well, you stole one of mine. Andrew Vaughn was one of mine, so I'm going to sit here and think of another one for you. No, that's okay. That's totally fine. I'm glad we're in agreement on that. But Brucey, go right ahead.
All right, I got 4. All right.
Oh.
The first one is Braves legend Matt Olson.
Dude, he's already an all-star. No, I don't like it. No, that doesn't count.
So was Brian Reynolds, so I can't hate on him too much.
That's my first one, is Braves legend Matt Olson.
Fine,
my second one is more of a comeback player rather than a breakout. Okay. I'm gonna go with Noah Syndergaard, with the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
I love his work ethic. I love watching his videos and stuff. And the dude knows how to pitch. So, and he has the stuff. Everybody knows he has the stuff. It just, if he stays healthy, I think he could be huge for an Angels team that needs pitching outside of Shohei. So, that's my first one. Alex Manoah from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, he's great.
He's awesome too. He's pitching tonight, and I think he's doing pretty well. Last I saw the score, he didn't give up a run to the mighty Yankees. But with all those guys that strike out in that lineup. And then I got Jazz Chisholm. We saw a little bit of what he could do last year, right? But I'm excited and terrified at the same time, because we play them a ton, to see him play for a whole entire year. I just asked him to not hit any more balls to the warning track on Ronald Acuna. That's all I asked him. But
Fair
yeah, those are my 4 technically, since I did add Braves legend Matt Olson in there. But yeah, I'm gonna go with those guys.
Perfect. So mine, I'm going to start with one that is a little bit near and dear to my heart. I grew up playing baseball with him, Shane McClanahan. That kid, has he already proven to be the ace of that rotation? Probably, but at the same time, I don't think he's truly broken out yet. I think he's been good. And arguably, at times, he's been very good. But I think this year he's going to prove that he is going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. And I think that the world's going to see what I saw from the time that we were 14 years old. I mean, this kid worked harder than everybody else. He was smaller than everybody else. That's a fact. I'm not. You can, you know, find my family and you can ask them. It is very, very true. He was like 4'10" when we were 14, 15 years old. And then all of a sudden I saw him as a junior in high school and he was 6'4". He was huge. And I watched him pitch and he was throwing 96. So, I mean, and then obviously, he's torn his UCL twice and come back from it to still throw triple digits and be dominant. The kid just works harder than anybody that I've ever seen. He's such a great competitor. I think he's going to break out this year. That's one. Patrick Sandoval of the Los Angeles Angels, another lefty pitcher. I'm actually doing a trio of lefty pitchers. I just realized that for my three, although I was going to do Andrew Vaughn. So that's on you, Andy.
Nothing's wrong with left-handed pitchers.
Always Andrew Vaughn.
Fair. Fair enough. Right. So Patrick Sandoval, I think he's got ace level stuff. And I think he's just got to get more experience and get more innings and stay healthy. Towards the end of last year, he got hurt a little bit. He was great in, I think, about 95 to 100 innings last year. He was really, really good for the Angels. And I think this year, considering Shohei's probably not going to pitch every 5 days, and Noah Syndergaard is probably going to be on an innings limit, considering he's been, 2 years basically from throwing it all. I think Patrick Sandoval is going to have a chance to take that rotation and put it on his back. Not necessarily, maybe not necessarily put it on his back, but have a bigger opportunity to be an innings eater, which he hasn't been so far. And I think it's really going to skyrocket his potential. And then third, I'm going to go with a bullpen arm for the Detroit Tigers, Gregory Soto. I have loved that guy for years. I think he's criminally underrated because he played for the absolutely atrociously bad Detroit Tigers. And so he's basically been the king of blown saves over the last few years. But it's also because the Tigers are just a dumpster fire. But I think this year they're going to be winning a lot more games. They're going to be winning a lot more close games. And Gregory Soto is going to be the guy that's going to come in the ninth. I think he might get 40 or 45 saves this year. I really, really do. He's already got 2 or 3 this year already. So, I mean, he's doing really well. And I think he's a guy that's going to break out. And then also, as Andy said, I would have picked Andrew Vaughn as well. I also really like Gavin Sheets, another outfielder for the White Sox. I like him a lot too. But right now, it's looking like Andrew Vaughn's going to be the everyday right fielder instead of Gavin Sheets. So I will go with Andrew Vaughn. Okay, so moving on to the next question. So you talked a little bit about the Yankees earlier with all of their striking out and everything, but they have looked pretty good so far this year to open up the season. They took 2 of 3 against the Red Sox. And who has not looked all that great so far? They have looked fine, but not all that great, has been the Toronto Blue Jays. They blew a huge lead yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago against the Rangers. They were up 6-0 in the first, ended up losing that game. So they're not looking amazing right now. Jose Barrios does not look good. He really, really struggled in his start. So here is my question for you guys. Who is more likely to win the AL East, the Yankees or the Blue Jays?
I find it really difficult to think that either one of them will beat out the Rays and Red Sox. I think those two will be the top 2 teams. I think the Yankees probably have a better chance than the Blue Jays, given the limited sample size we have so far. And I think a large reason that the Blue Jays even made the playoffs, they did not make it last year, but the reason they were so close last year was on the backs of Robbie Ray, who is now over in Seattle. I think he's a big part of their team, puzzle or whatever that's just missing. And I don't think they've found a replacement for him. And I don't think the Yankees are necessarily, I don't want to endorse this and say I think they can win the East, because I really don't think either one of these teams will. But between the two, I would say Yankees have a better shot than the Blue Jays.
Brucey?
I think the Blue Jays do. I don't even think the Yankees. I think the Yankees finished third or fourth in that division. Personally, outside of Garrett Cole, I don't think their starting pitching is that great. Outside of Aroldis Chapman, I don't think their bullpen's that great. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm not thinking of somebody on that team in the bullpen, then I apologize.
I think Zach Britton's still there, right? He's decent.
Is he? I can't remember.
He is still there, but he hasn't played all that great the last few years. And also, Chad Green is pretty good.
Yeah, Chad Green's. He's a good ball player. Yeah. But I think the Blue Jays honestly will win that division. I think the Red Sox or Rays will be right behind them. Gotcha. I could see the Yankees finishing fourth in the division. So, but that's such a good division compared to some of these other ones. You could get since there's 3 wild cards, you get 3 wild cards from that division. No joke. Yeah. It depends on what the West does. Because I do think that, I think the Astros will win that division, unfortunately. But I think the Mariners could get a playoff spot. And I think the Angels have an outside shot too. Yeah. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, I'm going to say an opinion that I don't think either of you are going to agree with. My pick to win the World Series this year is the Toronto Blue Jays. That is how highly I think of their team.
I 100% think I could see them winning it. I 100% agree with that. Yes.
And Andy, I know you're shaking your head, but hear me out. So I read an article the other day, and it made me, I think it might have even been yesterday. It made me so mad because I don't know who wrote this. I don't remember if it was ESPN or Yahoo Sports. I don't remember. But somebody said that the Blue Jays this year are an experiment to see how far a team that has an amazing lineup and no pitching can go. And I'm like, a team with Kevin Gausman, Hyunjin Ryu, Jose Barrios, Nate Pearson, Alex Manoah, that's a team that has no pitching? That doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, their bullpen's not great. Yimi Garcia and Jordan Romano can only take you so far.
Romano's one of the most underrated closers in the game.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's good, but how much else do they have back there? I don't know. But for me, I think it was a stupid statement because if you think about that starting rotation plus that lineup, I wouldn't want to face them in a playoff series. I certainly wouldn't want to face them in a wild card series because that's a lineup that can kill you no matter who's on the mound. You've got the king of postseason home runs in George Springer in your leadoff spot. And then from 2 to basically 8 or 9, you've got guys that have 30 to 40 home run potential pretty much the entire way through the lineup. So for me, I love the Blue Jays this year. I've picked the White Sox to represent the American League in the World Series the last 2 years. And both years they've let me down. And so I am protesting them this year. I don't, even though now they're probably going to be the ones that make it, and I'm just going to cry, but it's fine. No, I think the Blue Jays have not only a great chance to win the division, I think they can win the World Series. I really, really do.
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that.
So on that kind of topic, kind of changing it a little bit, I think I'm already going to know your guys' answer based on what you answered this question with. Who is most likely in your mind to miss the playoffs, the Red Sox or the Angels?
I'd say the Angels. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Unfortunately, because I think we all need to see Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs. That would be great. And I think that if they could get to the playoffs, they're a dangerous team. But they're built for, that team pitching-wise is not built for 162 games. But if they were to get into a playoff series, they 100% can win every series.
Gotcha. So I'm actually going to say the Angels are more likely to make the playoffs than the Red Sox. And the reason I say that is because the Red Sox have 0 pitching. We have 5 starters. That's it. We have 5. Actually, we might have 6 if Chris Sale ever decides to not be injured. Like, I'm not kidding. We don't have any starters that are ready in AAA. We got nothing. There's no pitching, and we got to play the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Yankees 18 times a year. Like those are three really good teams. Whereas the Angels, yes, you have the Mariners. They're good. Yes, you have the Astros. They are also good. But I think the Angels have a chance to win that division because I'm not sure how much I trust the Mariners and their big moves. Jesse Winker's great. He really is. But I'm not sure how many other bats in that lineup I trust, other than Mitch. Almost said Mitch Garver. That's not it. Mitch Haniger.
Yeah.
Other than Mitch Haniger, I mean, who else do you trust in that lineup? Honestly. So,
I mean,
Eugenio
they do
Suarez
have
is
some
apparently
bats,
going to
though.
strike out 350 times a year now and hit 120. So like, what do you have? You don't have a lot in that lineup that I trust. I also really don't trust their pitching staff. Yeah, Robbie Ray won Cy Young last year, but did you really think he was going to win Cy Young last year? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. No, of course you didn't. If you looked at me and said Robbie Ray is going to win Cy Young, I would have tombstone pile drive you on a wooden floor. Like, I would have thought you were nuts. Like, is he going to repeat that success? Maybe. But my bet is he probably won't. He probably won't be that good. Not that he won't be that good. I mean, he won't be as good as he was last year. And then outside of that, Marco Gonzalez, all right, he's fine. Then after that, you got a bunch of unproven guys. So I don't see I could see the Mariners legitimately underperforming a lot this year. And the Astros got way worse this year. They lost Correa, obviously. Like, I don't know. I think the Angels could win the division. I really do. If they perform the way that they can, I think the Angels can win the division. Now, are they going to win the division? No. Are they going to win 78 games? Yes. That's what's going to happen because it's what happens every year. But I'm holding out hope that Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani will finally get there. I hope Joe Adele finally stops hitting 170. So I just, yeah, that's my opinion on it anyway. You guys have anything else you want to add to that, or
No, that was good. That was good stuff.
Andy?
I got nothing to add to that.
All right.
I don't even think
then let's move on to football a little bit here. So obviously, Falcons have had an interesting offseason, I'll say. Clearly, you guys are in rebuild mode. And however you guys feel about that, I quite frankly am just happy that you guys picked a direction. I feel like you guys were really just in purgatory for a while. You guys finally were just like, that's it, we're rebuilding, and that's it. So are you guys a fan of the Marcus Mariota signing? Do you hate it? Are you just indifferent about it? Like, where do you guys stand on
that? I honestly don't care at this point.
I'm indifferent.
I wouldn't mind just. I mean, I like NFL, I like fantasy football and stuff like that, but I haven't been as invested in the Falcons for a couple of years now. Like it's been tough, and if they win, that's great. And I'm always going to root for them, but I'm not going to lose sleep over if they win or lose like I would like the Braves. So or the Georgia Bulldogs. So, yeah. But I mean, I don't think I think Mariota is a good sign because it shows me like, hey, maybe they're picking a quarterback this year or next year. So, and if they do, I would love to watch it. Like it's sad seeing Matt Ryan leave, but it's going to be fun to watch a new quarterback take over in Atlanta after so many years. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quote Lopes said it last podcast was, no matter who's behind, center, we're winning like 4 games tops.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense to do that with Mariota and who is either going to be a run option for a passer we pick up in the draft, or he's going to be a placeholder for somebody we get next year or some other free agent we pick up. It makes sense.
Gotcha. All right. So moving on to the draft this year. So there's obviously been quite a bit of movement. There's obviously been quite a bit of different prospects moving up, moving down. I thought Trayvon Walker would have been perfect for you guys, but it quite frankly seems unlikely he's going to make it out of the top 3 at this point. He has shot up draft boards like crazy. So for you guys, would you at number 8, if all goes well, and both Kenny Pickett and Kayvon Thibodeau were available, which one of those 2 guys would you rather have? Your quarterback of the future in Kenny Pickett? Possibly, right? You never guaranteed. Or what many believe to be the most talented player in the draft still this year, but there are also a lot of question marks, and he's just kind of a pass rusher. So what do you guys think? Which one would you rather have at that point?
I would take Thibodeau for sure. Because my thing when it comes to NFL drafts is if you don't think, if you're not 100% sure on a quarterback, like, don't take him. Like, none of these quarterbacks really are like, man, that guy's you can't miss on him. Like, I think that, like, yeah, you could miss, like, you could pass on him and be just fine and wait till the next year when I think there's going to be a lot better quarterbacks in that draft,
For sure.
Like, I wouldn't waste our pick on a quarterback, in this draft, because I don't think there can't miss quarterbacks. I think you can pass on them and be just fine.
Right.
I would agree with that. I think Pickett's the closest thing that they have to a can't miss quarterback. I'm not as sold on him as I have been in like other top quarterback options in the past few years, like Trevor Lawrence or I thought Carson Wentz was a surefire bet to be good. And Pickett's not that guy. It's difficult to it would be difficult to pass up on him, knowing that we definitely don't have anybody better right now. But I think the smarter move would be to take the defensive guy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I completely agree. I think if Thibodeau's still there, I think you got to take him. He's just so good. And like I've said, I mean, this is all going on predictions, right? Like, this is none of this is set in stone, and none of this can, it could all play out differently than what we're envisioning right now. But I think that next year, you're going to have at the very least Bryce Young and CJ Stroud in your draft, 2 absolute studs at quarterback. And you guys are, let's put it nicely, lackluster as a team. So and honestly, there are not a lot of teams in the NFL that, and again, I feel so bad saying this to you guys, but it's true. There's not a lot of teams in the NFL that have such little talent on their roster right now. And it's not all your guys' fault. It's not all your guys' fault. Like, obviously Calvin Ridley is on your team and that changes the whole dynamic of your team. But unfortunately, he is, suspended for a year because he did some dumb things. So, that changes things, but I genuinely believe that you guys will probably get a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft. If not the number 1 pick, I don't foresee a lot of teams being worse than you guys. Jets, maybe. Jags, maybe. But even the Jags put some pieces in place. They might win 5 games this year. Like, I don't think there's a lot of teams that are worse than you guys, unfortunately.
No, I agree. 100%.
So if you have a chance to at least get yourself in position to not have to give up a ton to move up in the draft, like if you have the 3rd or 4th pick and you want one of the top 2 QBs, you might be able to move up and take a Stroud or a Young next year. And they are absolute studs. And there's also other guys that could come out. Spencer Rattler was supposed to be a top 5 pick this year. He had a terrible year, but you never know what could happen next year. He might show out next year. You never know. And he could get all that draft status right back. DJ Oyunglele, like out of Clemson, had a bad year this year. He's got a lot of talent too. So, you never really know with these guys. So I definitely think that Kayvon Thibodeau would be the way to go for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of switch back to baseball here. One more question for you guys with baseball. Obviously your guys' pick to win the World Series this year is the Braves. Totally
No, not
understandable.
No,
necessarily.
not necessarily.
Really?
We would never jinx the Braves like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
never would do
okay,
that.
okay. I'm sorry. Well, then in that case, I will alter my question. What is going to be the World Series matchup that you guys think is going to happen?
Mr. Andy, I'll let you go first so you can quit.
Oh, you're putting me on the
agreeing with
spot
me.
here. Well, let's see. I'm not even going to pick the Braves to win the pennant because I don't like to, jinx my boys like that. I could see the St. Louis Cardinals in the Central being sneaky good, and
It does feel like a St. Louis Cardinals type of year where they make that sneaky run. Adam Wainwright, Yachty,
yeah, and it's like
Albert
and
Pujols.
it's both Yachty. It's Yachty and Pujols' last year confirmed. I'm pretty sure it's Wainwright's final year.
Probably.
Is it all three of their final years?
Probably.
More than likely.
Maybe.
I mean, if Adam Wainwright puts up a 2.6 ERA again, he might just pitch until he's 90 at this point.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, what's he throwing at this point? 82, and he's still striking everybody out. It's ridiculous.
Hey, it's working, and it's like you never want to bet on the Cardinals because they never win the World Series when they're favored to do so, but they could definitely sneak into the playoffs, go on a run, shock some people, and I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. I don't think anybody doubts that.
Right? Yeah, they're too good to win.
So I would probably make the Cardinals my National League pick.
Okay.
For the AL, I'm still a decently big believer in the Tampa Bay Rays. I know they lost some big pieces. Austin Meadows leaving was something I had to, console Kevin and John about because it hurt a lot. And I agree, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Nope.
To pick up a middle infield prospect when they just signed Wander forever. I don't understand the Rays.
They have like 98 middle infield prospects. It's ridiculous.
But also, that's not the first time the Rays have made a pickup that doesn't make any sense. And whenever they've done in the past, it works for no reason.
Yeah.
And I think they're the most talented you got the most talented pitching in the American League by far.
Mm.
I'd probably put them as my AL pick to win the AL pennant. World Series coin flip, but I'm just going to go Cardinals miracle run.
Fair enough. Brucey, your turn.
I think Blue Jays in the American League. I think they will. And I mean, that offense is just unbelievable. And I like you mentioned earlier, their pitching is not as bad as everyone says it is, So I think they'll win the American League. And as much as I hate to say it, freaking Dodgers. They're probably gonna make it. Like, let's be honest. Like, if I'm thinking the Braves are good, but can they do it twice in a row? I don't know. As much as I want them to, anything can happen when you get into that series, but looking at it on paper, like, I'd be dumb to not say the Dodgers. If the Braves don't do it, I think it would be really cool to see the Cardinals make a run also, though. Like, I'd love to see Albert go out as a champion with the Cardinals. So those are my two picks, and I think the Blue Jays will ultimately win it all as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, obviously you guys heard me, heard me earlier. Blue Jays, I think, are going to make it to the World Series. I also think the Dodgers are going to make it. I agree with you, Brucey, completely. I just don't see any team. I don't see how any team is going to stop them. Like, yes, their bullpen is not the best, especially after losing Kenley Jansen, but they still have Blake Trinan. They still have Bruce Gratterall. They still have Craig Kimbrell, or they just got Craig Kimbrell. Like, it's not like they have nobody.
Yeah.
And their rotation is unbelievable. Like, think about when Dustin May comes back, even if he goes into the bullpen, like, you're starting, your rotation is still Buehler, Kershaw, Gonsolin, Urias, who won 20 games last year. Like, that's your 4. That's your playoff rotation right there.
And you know they're going to trade for somebody. They're going.
Yeah,
They
sure.
have the number, like they have a top 3 farm system
Still.
in the whole major leagues. They're going to trade for somebody, you know. So
So
I
just
don't stop them. The only person that can stop them is Braves legend Matt Olson. That's the only way.
Fair enough. How much you want to bet that the Dodgers are going to trade for Matt Olson by the end of the year? No, I'm kidding.
I would cry.
Dude, that would be the weirdest thing ever. That would be so funny. Just like, hey, you know how I replaced you? I got bored. I wanted to come here. No, I don't see how anybody's gonna. I mean, I love the Blue Jays. I really do. I think they're gonna make it to the World Series. I also think that if they make it to the World Series and they play the Dodgers, they're gonna lose in 5. Like, the Dodgers, I think this year are gonna win 110 games and just destroy everybody. Like, I don't see, unless they just get hit with an injury bug that is like earth shattering and everybody on that team goes down. Like, they don't have a weakness. They don't have a weakness in that whole lineup, their whole starting rotation, their bullpen, maybe, but they still have 3 to 4 quality arms coming out of the pen.
I will say, though, the Dodgers lost their first series to the Colorado Rockies, and
they always do, though.
Yeah, and I know 2 Williams brothers that were very happy about that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna certainly talk about that when I'm gonna have Matt on the podcast in the next couple of weeks. So that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, yes. All right. So, sports questions done. I want to ask you guys a couple of questions about your experience at Johnson as player and as coach, obviously. Andy, I'm going to start with you. What is the biggest lesson that you have learned since becoming a Johnson baseball player that you think you can carry into just the real world with? What is the biggest lesson that you'd say you've
learned? Probably the biggest lesson I've learned is, hard work does pay off. And it can be something that's difficult because, you get to college and there's guys bigger than you, stronger than you, faster than you. You're not there yet. And, it feels like you always have like a long, long way to go, but eventually you'll get there. And that really came to my last year. Like, I started out probably as the worst player in college baseball my first February. I was doing really, really bad, which didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Andy, I was on that team. You were not the worst player in college baseball, buddy. I had like a 96 ERA, dude.
Well, so did I in February.
Okay, fair enough. But the difference is that by the end of the year, you didn't have a 96 ERA, and I did. So
exactly, and I was just like, why is this happening? I put in like all the work, and sure enough, Bruce was there along the ride. He was like, hey, I'll give you another chance. I know how hard you've worked for it. It'll pay off eventually. It took me a bit longer than I wanted. It was like late March, early April, but eventually, I just was able to trust myself because I knew I put in the work. And then, the results finally came. And it turned out that, the big crooked numbers I was given from February were just, to even out all the zeros I was going to throw in April. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And I'd probably say that's the biggest lesson that I took out of Johnson.
Gotcha. And Brucey, so my question for you is, what is your favorite thing about coaching? Because obviously you started out as an assistant, and now you've always wanted to be a head coach for a college program. Now you are doing that, and you're doing very well. What is your favorite thing about that head coaching gig that you've wanted, for such a long time? And then what is your least favorite thing about that position?
Oh gosh. Oh, the least favorite part could get me in a lot of trouble.
Just say me. I'm
just say Andy.
No, my favorite part is just like, I love the recruiting part of it. And I was able to do that when I was an assistant also. But now, like, I've got an assistant coach that I trust a ton. All my assistant coaches I do, but me and Coach Bell, we can recruit the guys we want, and form a team that we want. And I love that part of it, and I think we're doing a good job of doing that. And I love just being able to go to practice every day and seeing all the guys, so those two things are really my favorite part, along with like traveling and stuff. Besides driving, it sucks, but I do. The recruiting it's the best part of the job to me. It really is. It's a blast. And my least favorite, I guess, would be the driving. Yeah. Now that I've really answered that question, the driving is the absolute worst part of the job. I hate driving long distances and then having to drive back after a game. It is the worst. It's the absolute worst. I hate it. Coaching Andy would not be the worst. It's one of the better parts of my day, getting to see him and mess around with him a little bit and make fun of him for wearing a yellow T-shirt to practice.
It wasn't a yellow T-shirt. It was a yellow crew neck sweater.
Oh, even worse.
Yeah.
Hey, I was shagging in the outfield that day. I could wear.
Goodness gracious.
And all also, how can you hate driving when you get to hear Flint being Mafia every 5 minutes?
I wasn't on that bus.
Gotcha.
Tyler Lopes chose my bus, but you never did.
I chose Brucey's bus as often as I was allowed to choose Brucey's bus. Basically, that was the goal. So one more question for each of you. Andy, the thing that I want to ask you is, out of all of the accomplishments, out of everything that you have done at Johnson, obviously as your career winds down, what is the thing that you are most proud of at Johnson? What's the accomplishment that you are most fond of that you have done?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't know if I'd call it an accomplishment, but it was one of the things that stuck with me freshman year was the end of the year speech that Coach Fair gave to those seniors that, the Max McCoys, the Johnny Howards, Chase Whites. He was like, did you leave this place better than you found it? And this past month especially, I've been kind of looking at, what we have as a program right now. And holy cow, have we ever grown. And it is scary to remember, I was a part of that first practice and Lopes was there too. This was before Bruce was even a part of Johnson on the old field. I don't even remember what it was called. It had no fences down the foul lines. We were just...
Imagine getting foul balls there, Andy.
I would not be as quick to get them as I, run out on the parking lot and tennis courts that I do now. But
you should see him prance out of the dugout and go get them. It's great.
Oh, I've seen it. I was there for 4 years watching it.
I still can't hold still. I know I should make freshmen do it, but I'm like, oh, it's something to do, Yeah, we were a perennial, bottom of the barrel NCCAA team. We had some talent, and we had some guys that were just not talented. I don't want to say not talented, but they weren't up to par with the rest of us. We definitely had some weak spots in the lineup. Sometimes we would go hit in a sweaty old abandoned basketball gym, up the top of campus. And in the brief period that I've been there, not all of it was my doing, but we built an arc. We have a field. We have this group of freshmen this year is by far the most talented that's ever come in to Johnson. And we've had some really talented classes come in. These guys are just different. And I've really taken it this year. Once I was around there, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I don't throw as hard as I used to. My off-speed don't move as much as it used to. I'm not the, Adonis in training that you said I used to be. My role is to help get these boys, I've learned how to lose baseball games in a million different ways. and I've learned lessons that I don't typically repeat. So I got to make sure that they don't repeat any of my mistakes, and that they know they can compete at this AAC and AIA level, for years to come. Because ultimately, I'm not that guy, but I can help that guy, reach that role. And I definitely think that, I left Johnson better than I found it. And for that reason, I mean, I can't look back at that and not say, well, I gave it everything I had. I'm proud.
That's awesome. Awesome for sure. And yeah, same way. I feel the same way. I mean, just thinking crazily how much had changed. Even, I obviously left last year. I'm not there this year, but just thinking how much changed just in those 4 years, even without going to NAIA, even without that crazy recruiting class that you guys had this year, even without, finally having that, enough guys to basically have a JV team, and just having just a huge amount of players. Like, even without all that, I mean, it's just crazy to think that my first experience on a baseball field in college was me standing in the on deck circle and having like a 90-mile-an-hour line drive hit me right in the helmet from like 8 feet away, because that's where the on deck circle was. And like, that field was just horrendous. And then obviously later that year and the year after that, practicing in that old smelly 118-degree gym every day, and just sitting there thinking, what am I doing? Dude, we had my high school had one of the best facilities at any level in the state of Florida. Never mind, like high school, college, pro, everything. I would have taken my high school field over Tropicana Field. That's how much I loved my high school field, man. Like, we took care of that thing. And then to be practicing in an old, smelly gym, like a year later, it's like, what happened? What am I doing? Like, it's just crazy to think back that was how we started. And then now just that Russell Morgan is just, it has its flaws. It's a trampoline in the outfield most days. You never know where the heck the ball's going to go and all that.
Don't speak bad about Pap's grass now.
I'm sorry, Pap. I don't mean to disrespect your grass. I'll tell you what, it looked a heck of a lot better than the end of the year last year when I went a couple of weeks ago to go to your guys' games. But man, like, it's just crazy to think how much has changed just in that time. And and so Brucey, last question for you. So I obviously asked Andy, out of all the things, what is the biggest accomplishment that he's had? You haven't, you haven't been coaching at the head coach level long enough, I think, maybe to answer that question properly, because it hasn't even been 2 years yet. So I don't want to put you on the spot and pick something right now. But I do want to ask you, what has been the biggest challenge for you going from, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves, we're all friends here. You were the guy as an assistant coach that everybody wanted to be friends with, that everybody could confide in, that everybody could understand, and that you understood us, when oftentimes it felt like the rest of our coaching staff didn't really understand us and didn't really want to treat us in that kind of way. And now obviously you've transitioned into having to be the head coach. So what has been the biggest challenge for you in transitioning from being that, being able to kind of be that assistant coach that's like, hey, I don't make the decisions, but I'm on your guys' side, to, oh no, I don't care if I'm on your side, I have to make all the decisions now, whether you like it or not?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be a tough transition, going from that role, like a player's coach as an assistant, to the head coach, to being the head coach. But I mean, I still think that all their guys know that I care about them and I love them. Sure. I still cut up with them here and there, I mean, I cut up with Andy every chance I get,
Right.
But there is a boundary, and you always have to have that boundary, so and that's always tough, but I mean, I think all the guys still know that, like, how much I love them and I care about them, and I think you could ask all of them that, and they would know that, because I mean, you gotta think about it, man. I mean, I have no kids, right? Not yet, at least. So, and not anytime soon. But I have 41 guys I'm worrying about all the time, you know. So I mean, they got to think about that also, you know. Like it's tough work, like trying to meet everybody's needs on the entire team as the head coach, and it was a lot easier as an assistant coach, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because now I'm making the ultimate decisions, you know. So, and when I was an assistant coach, it would more be like, oh, I can see this guy's having a rough day, knowing I'm not making that decision, like whether he's going to play, whether he's not going to play, or we're going to pull him now. Like even if I ask that question or if I talk to somebody about something, doesn't necessarily mean you're playing, you know. So it can come off a little different to the guys, but yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it can be a tough transition, but I mean, just as long as your guys know you're there for them, I don't think it was that tough.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, that is all of the questions that I have for you guys. Obviously, you guys have answered a ton of questions, talked a lot about sports, talked about your past and everything like that with Johnson. Is there anything that you guys want to talk about with me while you have me here? Obviously, with all of our schedules being so busy, it's hard to get all three of us in the same kind of vicinity at once. So it's really just an awesome privilege. And again, thank you guys so much for doing this. This is just always so much fun to be able to do this. And
Oh yeah.
So is there anything else that you guys want to talk about, want to ask me, want to, anything like that? This is just an open floor for you guys. If there's anything that you thought we'd talk about that I didn't, or that you want to talk about, now is your chance.
I mean, Andy has not mentioned anything about our last podcast, and I've been waiting on it. So he told me he was going to tell me something. So
Bruce has been begging me to
look into the camera. Look into the camera. Let's make eye contact first off. All right.
You know I don't do that, Bruce.
Yeah, but we're gonna do it right here. Okay, let's go.
I'm so scared.
Bruce, you were right about Matt Olson coming to the Braves, and the Braves will most likely be fine without Freddie Freeman.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that, Andy. Thank you.
Andy, that was very noble of you. That was very nice.
That was very mature. You're growing up. That was great.
Growing up in front of your very eyes.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about, wanted to do anything like that before we call this sucker off?
No, I think I'm good. Lopes, we need to play some co-op on MLB The Show 22.
For sure. I have not bought the game yet, but I'm going to be purchasing it within the next few days for sure.
Perfect.
So we will definitely be hopping on there.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. Well, Andy, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to?
I got nothing to add. I'm not going to throw a canopy at you again.
You just see, you say that, and then you still do it. That's that's just an underhanded way of doing it, Andy. You can't.
You're a bad friend.
There's a lot of different ways I can word that joke.
That's like mouthing a curse word to somebody, or just saying, you know what, F word you. Like, we all know what you're saying. It's the same thing. Like, it's just ridiculous. No, you shouldn't do that. But okay, well, if that is the case, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say thank you guys so much for watching today. I really appreciate how much support that you guys have given me over the last couple of weeks. The channel has grown over 40% in views over the last month as compared to the first month of the podcast. And a big part of that is obviously these two guys right here. The first podcast that we did together was one of the most viewed podcasts we've had on the channel. So thank you guys, Andy and Bruce, of course, so much for doing this again. And thank you guys for watching and supporting. But until next week, I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really, really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends because, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.